You walk into your update meeting, but this time the tone is a bit different. Your VP is there, finance is there. That's a surprise. You were not told they would be there. You start your update. You explain what happened, what the team is doing, why the delay occurred. When you finish, your VP says, "Going forward, I'd like more direct visibility on this." Eek. That is the moment, not when oversight appears, when influence shifts. Most project managers respond by trying to prove they still have control. They explain more. They reassure more. They increase detail. And the more they explain, the more leadership listens for instability. So today, I want to show you exactly how to regain influence once leadership starts watching. Not by asking for autonomy back, not by defending your competence, by changing how you structure decisions. We're going to walk through two real environments, one corporate product example and one healthcare IT example. And I'm going to slow down inside each so you can see exactly what to change. Let's start with a corporate product scenario. A cross-functional launch is slipping. Engineering underestimated effort. Marketing already announced externally. Now leadership is attending your updates. Here is what most project managers say in this moment. We're working closely with engineering to resolve blockers and align on a revised timeline. That sounds responsible. It sounds collaborative. But it signals nothing. Why? Because it keeps the decision field open. Open fields create executive anxiety. When executives feel open variance, they increase oversight. So, here is the first shift. You stop reporting activity. You start reframing contained trade-offs. Same situation, different structure. Engineering requires 2 additional sprints. We have 2 options. Maintain code integrity and shift launch 4 weeks, or compress testing and increase post-launch defect risk. My recommendation is preserving integrity and adjusting marketing to phased release. Now, let's slow down. What's changed? First, you named the decision clearly. Second, you bounded the options. Not 5 options, not a vague exploration. 2. Third, you stated the consequence of each. Fourth, you gave a recommendation. This is critical. Influence returns when decisions route through you, not when you ask what others prefer. So, here is the practical tip. When leadership increases visibility, every update must contain the decision, the bounded options, the consequence of each option, your recommendation. If your update does not contain those 4 elements, you are narrating instead of leading, and narration increases supervision. Now, let's go deeper, shall we? Once oversight appears, do not wait for meetings to frame decisions. Pre-frame them. Before your next update, send a short note. Tomorrow we'll review the timeline decision. I will present 2 paths with cost and quality impact. Final recommendation included. What did you just do? You defined the structure of the conversation before it even began. That is how you quietly regain influence. You do not fight oversight. You structure it. And structured oversight often stabilizes quickly. Now, let's move into healthcare IT. This is my favorite. This is where visibility escalates fast. So, let's say you're leading an EMR implementation. During workflow validation, compliance flags documentation risk. The Chief Medical Information Officer and the Chief Medical Officer joins your call. Now, the environment feels tense. Most project managers in healthcare IT respond by increasing detail. They walk through clinical findings. They explain how the issue emerged. They narrate analyst conversations. That sounds thorough. It expands perceived risk. In regulated environments, expanded narrative equals expanded exposure. So, here is the structural change. You open the meeting like this. Workflow validation identified non-compliance in medication reconciliation and discharge documentation. We have two resolution paths. Adjust workflow design and expand training, which preserves go-live, or request policy review, which delays go-live 6 weeks. I recommend workflow adjustment. Training expansion is scoped. Now, let's break down the how behind this. In high regulation environments, never open with history. Open with exposure category. Never lead with analysis detail. Lead with resolution paths. Never ask what leadership prefers. Anchor your recommendation. Here's why. Executives monitor what feels unpredictable. When you name exposure clearly and bound the path forward, unpredictability shrinks. When unpredictability shrinks, executive pressure drops. That is influence recovery in healthcare IT, and it's entirely structural. Now, here is an advanced layer. Once leadership is watching closely, shift your language from reactive to forward contained. Instead of waiting for them to ask about risk, say, in the next checkpoint, we will evaluate authentication audit risk and present 2 mitigation options. You are signaling anticipation. Anticipation reduces surveillance. Executives step back when they feel you are ahead of the risk. Now, let me address something directly. You do not regain influence by asking for autonomy. You regain influence by reducing variance visibility. That means fewer exploratory phrases. Less, we're still evaluating. Less, we're gathering input. More bounded choices. More defined inflection points. More clear next checkpoints. Oversight remains when decisions feel fluid. Influence returns when decisions feel structured. Even if oversight does not disappear, your authority consolidates. You will notice a shift. Executives stop asking, what's going on? They start asking, what do you recommend? That question signals regained influence, not because they trust you emotionally, because your framing feels stable. So, here is the condensed execution model. When leadership starts watching, stop narrating activity. Start structuring decisions. Bound options to 2 or 3 maximum. State consequences clearly. Anchor a recommendation. Pre-frame conversations before meetings. Signal anticipation of future risk. And that is how you quietly regain influence. Not loudly, not defensively, structurally. If this episode helped you see oversight differently, go back to the earlier episodes in this series. We covered why oversight appears, how usefulness replaces autonomy, and how exploratory updates increase scrutiny. This episode builds on that foundation. Next week, we'll go one layer deeper. I'll see you there.